Good morning, Ukiah, and welcome to the show formerly known as The Jason Show. That name's done. We got to think of a new name. Stop me on the street. What's it going to be called? I interview homeless people every Saturday morning. They all have incredible stories, in my opinion, and I've got a great show for you today. We got Eddie Allen on here. He's fresh in the studio. He walked in last week and said, give me a job or give me a project and let's do some television and stuff. And I just ran into him on the street this morning. And we're going to tell his life story this morning. We're going to hear his life story and experiences. He's fresh, homeless. He's been homeless for the first time in his life for the last 6 weeks. Big old crazy life story that he's going to share with us. I'm really looking forward to that. Where was my next thought? Come on. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. My first group of people I found this morning, they just growled at me. They were like, "Get out of here, kid." I was like, "Here's what I do, this is my idea, if you know." And they had a lot of opinions, and they were kind of feisty, and they're like, John McCowan this and John McCowan that, and talking about, have you heard about that guy yet? But they were like, your show is stupid, and they were kind of angry and stuff, and so we'll see. Sometimes you get that out there in the real world. So, welcome to the show formerly known as the Jason Show. That's looking for a name right now, called the Transient Story Hour, or I don't know. I want to welcome Eddie Allen.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on.
No problem.
So,
first off, I'd like to say one thing, though.
All right.
I think your show here, this is the first time I ever heard about it. I think it's a positive show.
Well, thank you, man.
I like what you're trying to do for the community. Shine a light on the situation in Ukiah.
Thank you.
I think it's a positive step, and I think it should run on a continuous basis.
Great. Well, I've been doing it, and I really enjoy doing it, and I'm having a great time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Everybody's got a story, and they're all interesting, and just meeting people and really getting into it. So yeah, we're going to listen and we're going to talk. Let's just start off with your, okay, just an overview. Well, I introduced you already. You've been in here. You want to do a show. You got this guy, Blue, who was on my show. Abrew. What's his first name? Blue Abrew.
Blue.
You and him are scheming up something.
Yeah.
You've already been a cameraman. You know your way around video, and you're familiar with that.
I got some very, very
film school.
Yeah. I got some really good experience. I've worked on a movie. I worked for NASA, ESPN. I've done a couple of football games for NFL. I've done some stuff for NBA.
Okay.
So I've done a lot of projects. I did a project which which actually aired on The View. Out of about 350,000 applicants, my documentary was chosen second.
Oh, wow.
I came in second place.
Wow.
So
what was your documentary on?
It was on the Space Coast Early Intervention Center in Florida. And what they do is they deal with special needs children. They're an organization where they take handicapped children in, children with autism, children with basically any kind of defects and stuff like that, mentally challenged. They also help out the community as well too, like after school programs and stuff like that. And we did a piece on I did a piece on that, and through my college, and we sent it in, and it didn't air. Like I said, the first place was the one that was going to have The View come down and donate money to their organization, and so on and so forth. But it was an honor. It was a true honor for me to go there and work on this project.
And get a second place, too. Yeah. That's really neat. Yeah, that's great. How long was it?
It was about, I want to say maybe about 20 minutes.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, I studied documentary a long time ago.
That's cool.
So, so let's jump into this life story thing. That's how I've been starting the show lately. It's great. So 0 to 10.
0 to 10 was kind of a blur. My mom it's kind of funny that I've come to this point in my life, because 0 through 10, I was actually homeless with my mom. My mom was an addict.
Okay.
She was addicted to, I hate using this word because it's such a negative word. She was addicted to heroin.
Sure.
And so basically how 0 through 10 was kind of a blur, you know, digging out of trash cans and so on and so forth, just to eat and survive. There was no services available back then. This was back in, I don't know, I want to say maybe 72, 73.
What city?
Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
I was born in Georgetown, and I grew up in Arlington and Fairfax area.
Okay.
That's where I grew up at. So that was kind of a blur from 0 to 10, but it was a blur, but it was a moment in my life which stuck and has kind of driven me to the success I'm trying to accomplish. Because I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in that position again. But I want to say maybe about like 12, my mom, it had got to the point, and my father, so my parents divorced when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
And my dad jumped on a schooner and he sailed to South America.
Okay.
It's kind of a crazy story.
Sure.
It reads like a book, kind of.
Yeah.
He left us at 6. He jumped on a boat. He sailed to South America. So I didn't have my father there for me. You know, a young kid growing up without a father, you know, is pretty rough.
Yeah.
And mom was very irresponsible.
Sure.
She didn't take, and she's still today, she's addicted. You know, she's dealing with her addiction, and you know that's her. You know, I love my mom to death, but she has to deal with her addiction.
Do you talk to her ever?
I've tried to get in touch with her a couple of times.
So you talked to her a year ago, maybe, or
No,
something?
the last time I talked to my mom was, I want to probably say about 8 years ago, when my third daughter was born.
Okay.
I finally found her. She was living in North Carolina, and I invited her up for Christmas, and she said she can't do it because her therapist says she's not ready. Now, you got to remember, I haven't seen my mom since I was 12 years old. Well,
right.
Not true. And I'll get to that part of that story
We'll
later.
get to that.
But anyway, so at 12, we moved out here to Santa Barbara.
Now, let me get a little bit of a picture. You
Okay.
moved out to Santa Barbara when you were 12.
Right.
But let me get a little bit of this picture. Like 8, 9, 10, 11, you're a fully cognizant person.
Right.
Okay? You're a person that's living on the street.
Basically.
In and out of houses.
In and out of housing, you know, apartments, houses, here and there.
You're like a little adult.
Basically, yeah.
Because you're like getting your own hamburger out of the dumpster and
Yeah.
getting your own clothes together.
My sister's 2 years younger than me. So I basically raised my sister. I kind of raised my sister and my mother, I guess you can say, because I was the boy.
Sure.
You know, so I was the man that had to step up. You know, so it was rough. There wasn't a lot of services. No, actually, there was no services out there. So
Sure.
you know, it was really, really rough.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, my mom was a party animal. You know, she would go to the bars. She'd leave me and my sister in the car.
Sure.
And she would go into the bars and party. We'd go back. She'd come and she'd have a new guy every night.
Yep.
We'd go to wherever we were staying at.
Yeah.
And, you know, she'd be partying all night long, and me and my sister would be stuck under the bed, you know, just hiding, clinching.
Yeah.
You know, because when you're a child, man, and stuff like that happens to you, you just don't know how to process it and register it. So what's your first thing? Climb into a safe place, a closet, under a bed or something, and just hide from it, just because, you know. So that's kind of, that was kind of like the first 10 years of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe you're standing here in front of me. I mean, that is just, that's tough. That's big. I mean,
Well, I'm standing here in front of you because I am determined in my life, and I've taken a lot of steps, and I'm determined not to be that.
Yeah.
You know, I won't let that dictate my life.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I'm in control of my life, so it's my responsibility to make sure that that doesn't happen to me, and that's kind of what's driven me my whole life, kind of, I guess you could say. So
sure.
that's between 1 and 10. That's kind of what my life was like.
Okay. So 12, you come out to Santa Barbara.
Correct.
Is that a great California, the West is the best?
Oh, it was the best, man. It was the best of times, but it was also the worst of times as well, too. My dad was going to the University of Santa Barbara. So we come out here. Now, my dad, he he hasn't, thank God. He hasn't had a drink in 20 years, but when we came out here back in the 70s, he was a full-blown alcoholic. He wasn't necessarily a heroin addict, but he did snort coke.
He was a partier.
And he did smoke weed.
Right.
He's away from the coke. You know, he smokes some marijuana. Yeah. You know, it's okay. You know, he's a Vietnam vet. You know, he needs that marijuana to help him through his day. He was shot in the leg at the bottom of his calf, and the bullet came out through his shoulder. He's not crippled or anything. It missed all the vital organs in his body. And so
I never heard of a bullet going that far through anybody.
So he actually uses the marijuana for pain purposes.
Sure.
It's medicinal for him.
It's a painkiller.
You know, he has his card. You know, he uses it medicinally.
Okay. But still, this is your 12. You're in Santa Barbara.
Correct.
Your dad's still partying hard.
Yeah.
Your mom's partying hard. Now, what was good about it, first of all?
Well,
what was good about that move?
It was very positive because, like I said, my parents were divorced. My dad was married to my stepmother. He wasn't married to her. It was his girlfriend. She was like my stepmother. Uh-huh. And she's very straight-laced. She's the only person, and her name is Meta Myers. She's the only anchor in my life besides my grandparents in Virginia, which anchored me down and gave me my self-esteem. And she actually put me in Santa Barbara because she knew what my dad was doing, and she was not happy about it.
Wait, this is your dad's girlfriend?
Yeah, my dad's girlfriend in Santa Barbara.
Okay, and you're 12, 13, or whatever, and then she helps you get in school? What were you going to say?
Well, what she does is she sees, and I had talked to her about this a couple weeks ago, she saw what was going on with my dad, and she's like, there's no way I'm subjecting these children to this type of lifestyle, so she puts me in ballet.
Okay.
And I did ballet from the age of 12 all the way up to 16 when we moved to Florida. Oh. So I had that positivity there. I mean, my dad, I was oblivious. I'm 12. I don't know what's going on, you know.
Sure.
So it was very positive out here in Santa Barbara. I got into skateboarding, surfing.
Right.
I was doing ballet.
Yeah.
But I was still, you know. So it was a positive. It was very, very positive. But still, my father would go out to Arizona and pick bags of peyote, and he would come home, and even though I was focused, she was directing my focus. This is where my addiction started, was out here, because my father was actually I didn't, you know, I was young. I didn't see anything wrong with marijuana. You know, you're 13 years old, you're going to school, you're peer pressure, you're going out, getting stoned with your buddies and stuff like that. I started getting into a little bit of trouble. That's where my road of addiction started at, basically.
When did you first take drugs? When did you first get stoned?
12.
Okay. 12
when we moved out here, my dad smoked a joint with me.
Okay.
And then I stole his peyote, and then that was crazy. But my dad had a bag of peyote, and he's like, I saw it, and I'm like, if my dad has it, it's a drug. Right. So I took it to school. Dos Pueblos Junior High School is where I was going in Santa Barbara. And I'm selling the peyote in school, and the principal busts me.
Oh, my God. You got to be kidding me.
No, I didn't know, man. I was stupid, you know.
So let me ask you this. A lot of people consider peyote, well, the Native Americans have a church of peyote. They consider it to be not a drug at all.
No, it's a spiritual awakening.
Now, then you've got crack cocaine and methamphetamines,
on that shit.
And that's a powerful. That's a powerful, very powerful white man thing. Okay. Now, what's your view of it? Do you see them all as a problem situation? Do you see peyote in a good light and crank in a bad light? Is there any goodness of crank? Have you ever had it? I'm sure people have spiritual experience on crack before it destroys them or something.
Yeah,
like that.
You lose all your money.
Right.
That's pretty spiritual when you can't pay your rent. Kind of snaps you to reality. I never really saw anything wrong with drugs because my whole life has been drugs. I've always had friends. Look, I don't want to go off point as to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So basically, like you said, my teenage years was out here in Santa Barbara. You know, I started smoking a little pot, you know.
Right.
Well, not a little. I started smoking pot. And then it just...
Went into beer and went into bartending and...
Actually, when I moved, because see, back in '74, we moved from Santa Barbara to the Space Coast of Florida. We moved over to Cape Canaveral area, where the space shuttle goes up.
Yeah.
We were in Brevard County. Where was I going with this?
Well, we were talking about drugs and how you grew up with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When I moved from Santa Barbara to Florida, I was 17 years old. Carnival had come into town, and I was maybe 17 years old. I had just been expelled from high school because me and my buddy Tony were skipping all the time, smoking weed every day, drinking.
Yeah.
It started developing, not coke yet or anything like that.
This is
or
junior
any hard
high
drugs.
or high school?
This is high school.
High school. Okay.
Palm Bay High School.
Sure.
We were partying, you know. We had all the girls with us. We're going out, you know, partying all day long. I was expelled from high school, and a carnival came to town.
Okay. Hold that thought.
Okay.
This is the show with no name for the moment. We're talking with Eddie Allen. He's my guest today. And we're just going through life story and reality on the street of Ukiah and the rest of the world. So thanks for tuning in. Eddie, Carnival came to town.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's crazy. Okay, so Carnival came to town in Brevard County. And I was, you know, you smoke weed all the time. And, you know, we're partying, drinking, having a good old time. And I was doing odd jobs. I was working with my father as an assistant plumber during the day. And I was working at night. See, my work ethic has always been driven. It all started out here in Santa Barbara. I would go door to door, cut grass, mow grass, do anything to make money. So my work ethic is really, really strong. I have a very good work ethic. So back to the carnival. They had asked me, I said, hey, what would you think about joining up with us and coming out? We'll pay you $80 a day. You get $10, and we put $70 into a savings account for you. And I'm like, well, you know what? Yeah, what the heck? I'm ready to get my life started. So at 17...
Expelled from high school.
Expelled from high school.
Joined the circus.
Joined the circus. I actually had the Gravitron. You know the Gravitron?
Yeah.
At the carnivals?
Yeah.
That was my ride.
Oh, really?
I was assigned to that ride. Yeah,
really?
Yeah, I would break it down, set it up, and then that's when my experience in mushrooms started.
Okay.
Because we're smoking weed, and then, you know, you're with the carnies.
Yeah.
So
they're a rough group, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That developed my thick skin, and then, you're out in the carnival scene. I mean, it's just crazy out there. So that's where I started using shrooms at.
Okay.
Shroom tea.
Yeah.
Smoking weed. Do some acid every once in a while.
Uh-huh.
So from the weed, it's now has developed into mushrooms and acid.
Right.
So I'm smoking weed, I'm doing mushrooms, I'm doing acid. I don't see anything wrong with it because this has been my life so far.
Right.
So this is where my drug addiction has begun.
Okay.
Is this right here.
Okay.
We get back to Winter Home, which is in Tampa, Florida.
Let me ask you something before. Yeah. Hold that thought. We're on a stream here. We're going to Winter Home, Florida. Okay.
No, it's in Tampa, Florida, but it's called Winter Home.
Okay. So right before we get to Winter Home, I got to stop you on the Gravitron.
Okay.
I heard somebody the other day on the radio say, one of my best experiences in life was when I was on the Gravitron and the dude that was running it got into it while it was running and walked over everybody.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
I've never done it. But
have you ever seen it?
Oh, yeah.
You've seen people do this?
Yeah, a couple guys on mushrooms.
You're killing me. Oh, my goodness. Is this really what's happening?
It's a trip, man.
How do you get into the Gravitron while it's running? What, do you got to run and jump?
No, hey, see how the Gravitron works, and some of these people might know out there. You have a station in the center of it. You get inside the Gravitron, everybody lines up around this post. which is a DJ's post. So what happens is when it starts turning, this still stays stationary.
Right.
So he walks out of it, and he walks around it.
So he's
from
in
the
hub?
inside.
He's in the hub?
Yeah, he's running the actual. You're actually running
Sure.
the gravitron inside.
But he's in the hub.
Yeah.
And all the people are on like where the spokes are out here.
Right.
How
No.
does he-
That's not the metal one. It's the one that looks like a spaceship. That's what the gravitron is.
I thought the gravitron was the one where you spin inside like a washing
Like a
machine
metal
and the floor
cage?
goes out from below you and
Yeah.
you're stuck to the wall.
Yeah, it looks like a spaceship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the gravitron.
And he'd jump out of his booth?
He'd jump out of his booth and he would walk around. That's what some people would do. I didn't do that. I was too scared.
But you were a skater in a ballet.
Yeah.
You had the skill, physical poise to do it. You just never got the nerve.
Just never got the nerve to do it.
Out of control.
Yeah, it was out of control. It was crazy.
All right, so winter home.
Okay. So we get back to Tampa. Now, I had been out with these guys for about 7 months now, traveling with them from town to town, Gainesville, Orlando, Tampa, all over the place in our winter home. When I say winter home, what I mean by that, let me explain that to you. Winter home is you have circuits that the carnival goes in, and you go out for a 5-month circuit, and you make all of these rounds and stuff in the carnival circuit.
Right.
And then you're done for that year, so you go back to your winter home. That's where all the carnivals go, and they're stationed. And in Tampa, Florida, there's a town that's called Circusville or something like that.
It must be called that.
Yeah, because that's where all of the carnivals go for the winter home. They go there for their winter. You go there, you stay there for 2 months, and then you back out on the circuit again.
Sure.
So we get to Tampa, to the winter home, and it was time to get paid. Because like I said,
They were saving.
you get $80 a day, you get $10 per day, and the rest of the money goes into the thing. So they said, oh, well, we didn't make enough money this year, blah, 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 we can't pay you.
Love it.
Yeah. So me and my buddy broke into the office.
Sure.
And stole all their money. Now, you remember, I'm wild and crazy back then, you know.
Yeah.
You know what they say,
Yeah.
young, dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we did. So we do this, right? And then we pack up all our stuff, and then we start hitchhiking. So we left from Tampa, Florida, and we hitchhiked. We were going to Santa Barbara.
Right.
We were going back to Santa Barbara because I figured, you know what? I'm going to go back to Santa Barbara because that's where I had all my great experiences at when I was young.
Okay.
Santa Barbara was a great place for me to be.
You had a good memory, good association.
Good memory, good association.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I wanted to get back to there.
Okay. Okay.
We get all the way to Texas, and we end up getting split up.
Okay.
Now,
why'd you hitchhike with all this money? Why didn't you just jump on a bus, a plane, or a train?
Because we blew it that night on drinking. We went and drank all the money up and got hammered.
Oh my
and then
goodness.
we left Tampa with no money. So we had to hitchhike. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so.
Okay, fair enough.
So now, not to go off subject, but this is kind of ties into the story where I'm going with it.
Split up in Texas.
No. When we lived out here in Santa Barbara, my dad had one of his best friends called Jim Nichols, was the gentleman's name, which he's passed now. He followed us out to Florida. We came out to Florida. My grandparents paid for us to come out there, so we drove in a VW bus from Santa Barbara to Melbourne, Florida, in a bus, a VW bus.
Sure.
Those old ones with the sinks in them and stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah, so we drove out there. 2 weeks later, he followed us out. So now I'm in Tampa, and I'm hitchhiking across the United States. I lose my friend in Texas. I get to Arizona. I'm hitchhiking. This stoner dude picks me up. We're traveling down the road, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and I see this U-Haul coming up. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I look over, and it's Jim Nichols. My dad's best friend that followed us to Florida was now going back to Santa Barbara. And as we're going through Arizona, he passes me.
Right.
And I'm looking over, and I'm like, it was really weird. I was like, Jim! He looks over, he's, Eddie! So we pull over, and we end up hooking up, and he says, dude, you're not going to believe this. Your dad's been looking for you. Your grandfather passed. which was really tough for me because my grandfather was my father.
Ah,
He was an old Navy hatter in the Navy.
What's a hatter mean?
A hatter, he's a salvage expert. They put on those big helmets and they go down to the bottom of the ocean and they do salvage for the Navy. He was a master sergeant hatter in the Navy for 40 years. He was an inventor. He was a great man.
And you got this news when you were 18 or whatever?
18. I was about 18, and I was about maybe 6 months away from becoming 19 years old.
So that crushed you.
That crushed me.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to my dad on the phone, and he says, "Your mom has been looking for you." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, where's she at?" She says, "She's in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma." Now
You're past.
I'm in Arizona.
Right.
And I'm one exit away from the exit that you take to go up to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
So I hightail it up there, and I run in with my mom.
Okay.
And now I remember why she gave us away, because she's still addicted.
Yeah.
Then, it was crazy.
What do you mean gave you away?
Well, she sent us up to my father.
Okay.
She sent us over to my father.
Yeah.
So I consider that abandonment.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues that I deal with, is abandonment issues.
Did that ever hurt you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Because some people are like, no, it didn't hurt me because she never gave me anything anyway.
She's still my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll love her to the day I die. I don't agree with a lot of things she does.
Of course.
But, that's her addiction.
Yeah.
I have my own addiction to deal with.
Yeah.
So I go up there to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and I ended up hooking up with my mom, and I stayed maybe 6 months, and it just wasn't working out. I just couldn't be around her anymore. I was still smoking weed, and I wasn't really into heavy drugs then. I was just a weed smoker. I was just some young stoner kid. I just turned 19. I had got a joint. She found that joint, and she kicked me out in the street.
Wait,
so
she's a heroin addict.
Yeah.
And she's like, you smoke marijuana? You're out of here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she was on a road to recovery back then.
Oh, she was having a clean spell.
She was having a clean spell. So
okay, sure. She wouldn't want to have that in the house.
Right.
Sure.
In that program that they have, they tell you that you have to break all associations with it, stuff like that. So that's what she did to her own son. She kicked me back out in the street. So I hightailed it back. I threw away the idea of going to Santa Barbara, and I went back to Florida.
Okay.
Okay.
Now wait. You had a really sunny goal, a real nice, beautiful goal of Santa Barbara. What made you say, no, I'm not going to go there? I mean, it sounds like you were like on track to go to the sunny, great surfing place. What happened?
I don't know what changed, man. It's just, I think that thing with my mom, I just needed some family near me. Because my mom just, she's already abandoned me when I was 12, sent me out here to Florida, sent me out to California.
So that really
to my
crushed
dad.
you.
Yeah.
Again.
I was real close to my mom.
Yeah.
And then now she's kicking me out in the street again. So I couldn't handle it mentally. So I had to be next to family. So I went back to Florida because that's where my dad and my grandparents were at.
Oh, they weren't in Santa Barbara at the time, right? No. Okay, so you went back to, okay.
I went back to Florida.
Sure.
I go back there. I'm working with my dad, doing plumbing during the day. And I start bar backing in bars at night. So I'm working 16, 17 hours a day, doing plumbing during the day and bartending at night.
Yeah.
And that's where the cocaine came into use. I was still smoking weed.
And drinking. Smoking and drinking.
Smoking, drinking.
Sure.
You're a young kid.
Everybody.
You're going to experiment.
Or a lot, yeah.
You're young, dumb, and you know what.
Yeah.
So, I'm getting drunk every night. I'm making really good money in the bar. I'm making like $400 in tips as a bar back.
Whoa.
The bartenders were making, $1,200 a night in tips.
You were working at the right place.
Oh, yeah.
What did Richard Pryor said? He said, cocaine is God's way of saying you are making too much blank money.
Exactly.
So it sounds like that was who he was talking about, you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm making all this money. I don't have any responsibilities. I'm a young kid. We're smoking weed. We're snorting lines. And for the next 10 to 12 years, I bartended in bars. Bar back, bartended. I worked at this place for 5 years, and I went to Fort Myers and worked at another place. I'll tell you that here shortly. But I started using coke. I started doing lines. I couldn't work with my father anymore, so I went to work with my friend Tony Odo, which was my buddy from Florida. When we moved from Santa Barbara to Florida, we moved to a town called Palm Bay, and he was like the only kid on the block, so we became like real tight, actual blood brothers. We sliced our hands open and we shook hands, and we actually became blood brothers.
Sure. And this is in your early 20s?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. This was when I was 16.
Oh, okay.
When we just moved to Florida, and I was going to high school, and we became tight friends then. So, but anyways, so I go to work for Tony. He's a cable lineman. So I get into the cable industry. As
another rough group.
Oh, yeah, roughnecks.
Cable dudes, lineman dudes.
Oh, yeah.
They party.
Yep. Started learning to climb.
Uh-huh.
Became a splicer. Put up fiber, put up coaxial cable, and I did that for the next 15 years.
Okay.
While working in bars at night. See, I'm naturally hyperactive. I have ADHD. I had as a child, but I've never treated it.
You've never treated it?
Right.
Okay.
That's why I'm always hyper, and everybody's like, I've never been able. Cable and bartending is the only jobs I've ever been able to really handle, because those jobs you have to work hard. You know, you have to get up there and climb the poles and change out the taps and climb back down.
Right.
And then you go work in the bar, and you got 1,200 people in the bar carrying kegs.
Yeah.
Washing glasses, changing out beers. So those two jobs fit me very well.
So you could never just work at a bookstore and be like,
as you could
look
tell,
for a book for you?
As you could tell. So that's hurt me a lot in the past 10 years, because everybody's like, you're on drugs. And I'm like, I'm not on drugs. I'm just hyper. Right.
Well, sometimes you are, but sometimes you aren't.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no.
Sure.
The drugs kind of calm me down a little bit. It's kind of weird. I have a dual effect.
Well, what is Ritalin? Ritalin is a derivative of speed.
Yeah, and my kids have ADHD, and my wife wants me to put them on. Well, my wife wanted me to put them, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that story too.
Yeah.
So, as I said, these two jobs fit me very well. So I was able to make a really good living doing cable during the day and bartending at night.
Sure.
So every week, I had I was making over $1,000 a week. I'm 21 years old.
Right.
Full blown partying. You work till 4 o'clock in the morning, then you go out and you party, and then of course I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning and went and did my cable.
Right.
So for the past 15 years, I would maybe get an hour's of sleep a night. That's it. For 15 years.
That doesn't even compute.
No. That's my hyperactivity. It's just I would take power naps.
Okay.
Is what I would do.
Yeah, I do that.
Here and there.
Sure.
So, and I had quit school, and my grandparents, my grandmother was instrumental in me going back to college and getting my GED.
Cool. She's
my mom.
She survived your grandfather.
Yeah, she did.
She lived
by 15 years.
Great. So you had that person in your life that was a calm.
Right. Yeah. I had that mom in my life that I never had with my real mom. She was my mom, and she was always, Eddie, you should go back and get your GED. I'd be so proud of you.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. In '95, I went back and I got my GED. In '90, I met my wife.
Okay, but you're about to get in trouble here and go into jail, right? Before you met your wife?
Yeah, before I met my wife, that's right. As I said, we were doing cable television. Yep. I'm sorry I get off point here and there, but
no.
My mind
That's
just
all right. There's
goes.
a lot going on. It's a big story. You got a great memory.
I guess it must have been 86, 87. I was working at that bar as a bar back bartender. The club closed down. They shut the doors.
Yep.
Business game went down, so they closed the doors. So now I'm not doing my cable or doing my bartending tonight. So we just got a contract for Time Warner Cable to go out to Fort Myers and do a rebuild out in Fort Myers. Fiber, cable, everything, new taps, new everything.
Yep.
LEs and stuff. So we went to Fort Myers, and we did cable there. and I would work at a club called Norma Jean's Cafe, and it's in Fort Myers. It's on the over there by the Thomas Edison Fountain of Youth, I think it is, or something like that. So I started working in that bar, and that bar is where I really made some money. I was making, God, $800 a night in tips. This club.
I guess it's not the kind of club that I go to.
No. It's right in the middle of Sanibel Island in Naples. You know, have you heard anything about Sanibel Island in Naples?
No.
Sanibel Island in Naples is a very, very, very rich town. I mean, like stars live there.
$12
CEOs.
cocktails, $15 cocktails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they had 8 bars in one bar. It's called Norma Jean's Cafe. It had the theme of a James Dean and a Marilyn Monroe.
Sure.
And if you know anything about wrestling, there's a gentleman called Diamond Dallas Page. He was the general manager of that bar at the time. He was the guy that actually brought midget wrestling to WWF, which is he's crazy.
Was he a bouncer ever too?
No, he was the general manager of the club. He ran the club. They called him we called him Diamond Dallas Page back then. That's how he actually got into wrestling. DDP, that guy.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, that's Diamond Dallas Page. And back then, he was the general manager of the club. And that's where, and we became friends, and that's where the drug use started really getting heavy. We went from snorting coke to freebasing coke.
Okay. And why did you make that decision? What happened that night that you're like, you know, I party this way and I party that way, and let's try it?
Well, here's the funny thing. It wasn't a decision to do it. It's just we were partying. Someone came with some coke, and he said, hey, try this. And he took the coke and he took the water, mixed it up, put it on tinfoil, and then we smoked it.
Right.
So we were partying.
Right.
You know? So it wasn't like I said, oh, I'm going to go freebase cocaine.
It was just part of the spectrum.
It was just part of the partying.
Okay.
So we're getting drunk, we're freebasing, we're partying, we're having a good time, and I'm with Diamond Dallas Page. So this guy right here, I'm talking Justine Bateman from Family Ties, hung out there, partied with us.
Right.
Heather Locklear hung out there. You remember The Courtship of Eddie's Father?
No.
With Bill Bixby?
No.
The little Eddie dude. He hung out and partied with us too. So I'm with all these stars. Macho Man Camacho, the heavyweight boxer of the world back then. We're partying with all these people, man, and having a good time. So I'm with these stars. I'm with these people that are like, wow.
Sure.
Starstruck.
Yeah.
You know, and we're partying.
Right.
You know?
And how was it? Was it fantastic?
Oh, it was a blast, man. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, I didn't see anything wrong with it. You know, because that's what I've been doing my whole life anyways, is partying and smoking weed and snorting lines and you know, whatever. So then it turned into a, you know, and freebase, of course, turned into crack.
What happened the first time you ever smoked crack? You went to the moon?
To the moon.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're blasting off in a spaceship.
Uh-huh.
It's one of the most euphoric feelings you'll ever have.
That's what I hear.
Followed by an intense feeling of, give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more.
Right.
But back then, I don't like using that word crack. It's a very negative word, but it is what it is.
Uh-huh.
That's when this stuff was at its finest and its purest.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they would mix it with coke, and they would mix it with ether, and it was just, and you didn't need to smoke. You do one hit, and you're good for 3-4 hours.
Right.
You know, it was that good.
Uh-huh.
And I was already an addictive personality anyway, so that when I got a hold of that, it just, boom!
Uh-huh. How long did you spend on that? Did you spend a year on that?
3 months.
3 months.
Right, so now I'm into crack.
Okay, so you did crack for 3 months.
Right.
How did you get off of it? How did you stop?
I was it was Halloween night. Me and my buddy Tony, who was also not a crackhead or a meth head, or not a crackhead or a freebaser, but he was a cokehead, and he would bring kilos of coke home because, you know, we're making killer money. Yeah. So he would go out and he would buy the coke and he would supply the parties.
Right.
It's Halloween night. We go out to the dog tracks, and I picked the winner, and I won $1,500 at the track. So And where we were living at in Fort Myers was right in the ghetto, or right in the middle of the ghetto. So there's crack everywhere. This is when crack started exploding.
Okay.
And everybody started getting addicted to crack. So we're out, we're having a powwow, man. I'm down to my last $100. I just spent $1,400 on crack in 2 hours.
For your friends or for yourself?
For all of us. We're all partying.
Okay.
You know?
Sure.
So then I'm
Down
scoring my last $100.
Yeah.
And the cops pull me over. And they caught me with it. And they sent me to Fort Myers jail. Okay. County jail, not prison.
Right.
I've never been to prison.
Okay.
But I have been to jail many a times.
Okay.
I don't have any felonies,
right.
but I have a whole bunch of misdemeanors, like driving on suspended license, you know, not using turn signals, you know, nothing major. I got caught with weed when I was 19, you know, and stuff like, you know, just like little minor stuff. Okay. You know, stole a pack of cigarettes here and there.
No hard time.
No hard time. So we go to I get busted with the drug, and they go to county jail. It was a trip, man. They lost my paperwork. I'm in Fort Myers jail. I hadn't seen a lawyer. I hadn't seen a public defender. I hadn't seen a judge for 85 days.
Woo.
They lost my paperwork. They didn't even know I was in there.
Oh, my.
So I'm in jail for 85 days. And finally, someone said, Mr. Allen. I go up, I go, it's about time.
Yeah.
I get out. But this is where the story, this is how the story comes together. While I was in county jail, I was saved by Jesus Christ.
Okay.
The light came down on me.
When? The day after you got in?
No. I was already in. I was attending church services. I've always attended church.
Okay.
With my grandparents. I grew up Roman Catholic. My mom was Southern Baptist.
Okay.
So I always have gone to church. So I went to a service in county jail because I was looking for something in my life because I knew at that point that my life was pretty much going nowhere. So I went to church, and the light came down on me, and then I asked Jesus into my life, and He saved me, and I made a pact with Him that day. I said, you know, and you know, it's funny. When you need something, you ask for God's help. When you don't need anything, you don't even ask Him for anything. And I needed help, and I told Him, I said, listen, Lord, if you help me out of this situation, I'm done.
Right.
So, 85 days goes by. They had to release me. They finally found my paperwork. It was stuffed under a bunch of stuff. They had to release me. They couldn't hold me any longer. Went in front of the judge. The judge said, Mr. Allen, you must be the luckiest man on the world. We've lost the evidence. Case dismissed. Boom. And that's the day I quit using crack.
Okay.
Hadn't touched it in 25 years.
Okay.
Done.
Right.
So I get out. I go back to cable. I'm still smoking weed. You know, still drinking, partying.
Yeah.
No coke. None.
Okay.
I had stopped all of that shit.
Okay.
Oh, excuse my language.
That's all right. Family show.
So that stopped that. I went back to doing cable. Went back to bartending at night, and I got injured I did something. I messed up my back or something. I don't remember what it was, but I couldn't do cable. I was injured. I couldn't do cable any longer. So I went back to college. Well, no. This was back in 92, 93. I went back and got my GED.
Okay.
Finally.
Okay, and that's from your grandma?
That's from my grandmother's influence.
Okay, before we get out of prison and go into college.
Jail,
sorry. Thank you.
No prison.
Right.
Just make that clear.
Out of jail and into college. Back in jail. Back in the church. Back with the white light coming down. Now, you were smoking crack for 3 months.
Right.
And you were on a big night, the night you got put in jail.
Yeah.
What was the next couple days like? Did you have a big old hellish experience of coming off of that and cleaning up and in a cement block?
Because I was full blown, man.
Right.
I mean, I was into it. So I was going through heavy withdrawals.
Okay.
I slept for like 8 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great way to get off crack. Sleep for 8 days.
Yeah, buddy.
because you were just hurting.
I was hurting.
I'm surprised that you were able to sleep for 8 days.
Yeah.
Most people, the story I would imagine is that you'd be sitting there like picking your ears off for 8 days.
Yeah, no. I was total opposite. Crack motivated me.
Uh-huh.
I would go out and we would just work 12, 15 hours a day and it just
Yeah. Right.
go out and bartend all night long. I was making killer money, man. I was bringing in like almost $4,500 a week.
I don't know how you could be so functional on crack. I mean, I worked with a guy that I am pretty sure I found out later that he was on crack. And I was a painter in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And he was on my crew. And he would paint and everything was fine. And he was kind of sweaty. And then he'd like kind of start to get really nervous and upset, and then he'd go away and he'd come back 10 minutes later and work for a couple more hours. And it just didn't, I wouldn't call him functional, but the story, the picture that you're painting is that you were ready to carry kegs on this day and climb a ladder on that day.
I was very hyper. I'm very hyper already. I was never diagnosed with ADHD because they didn't have, back then, they didn't have, you know, they didn't have your ADHD.
They didn't have that
you're
diagnosis.
Bipolar.
Right.
They didn't have those type of diagnoses, so I just went through life.
Okay.
So I'm naturally hyper, so those jobs fit me well. I was able to do those jobs as a functional drug addict because I'm constantly moving, constantly working.
Right.
See, when you stop working and you stop doing stuff, that's when you crash.
Okay. We've got 13 minutes to go. We're only halfway through.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to come on. We're going to have to come back next week or the week after and finish this story because we haven't even met your wife yet or had a kid yet.
No.
Or yet, let alone gotten into like the now, which is that you've been homeless for 6 weeks for the first time in your life.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so Eddie Allen is my guest today, and we're whipping through his story as fast as we can, but it's not fast enough. So we're just going to continue and leave off where we have another 10 minutes right now. And we'll just have to catch up when we get another chance. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. But wait, we're not going to say goodbye yet. So we are now out of jail, and Grandma, bless her soul, has gotten you to convince to sign up
and get my GED.
Get your GED, and then
I could.
We don't want to blast through.
Okay.
No, this is great stuff. This is real. I really appreciate all of this.
No problem.
So yeah, we're just going to get where we get.
This is great therapy for me as well too.
So. Oh really? Okay, good. Right on, right on. You know, one thing that I'd like to say that colors this whole story that we're only going to get through so much today is that you were born addicted.
Yes.
That's an important thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't. I'm lucky.
You are lucky.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, man. Living in an addiction. See, my parents were. They're roughnecks. You know, my dad was a biker.
Okay.
You know, he grew up. You know, he bartended in Georgetown. Met my mom. My mom was a stripper. You know, this is a whole nother story. This is another whole day. But that was my parents. You know. Yeah. Partiers, bikers, strippers, you know, and when you grow up in a lifestyle like that, you just don't see reality, which is, you know, it's not healthy for kids to grow up and stuff like that.
No. And,
not at all.
And born addicted, I mean, she was doing drugs while you were
in her belly.
Yeah.
But I don't allow that to dictate my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Obviously.
That's her.
Right.
That's her addiction. She has to struggle through that.
Right.
I have my own addiction that I have to struggle through, you know.
Yeah.
So
getting back, we are now in college. You did your GED. You're drinking and smoking, but you're really calm compared to what you were.
I'm starting to become focused.
Okay.
I'm starting to develop, you know, a healthy mental attitude.
Uh-huh.
It took me about 8 times to pass my GED.
Uh-huh.
But I finally got it in '93. At that point, I wasn't doing cable. I was working in the bars in Florida. The bar closed down, so I was jobless for the first time.
Uh-huh.
I've always been able to get a job. You know, I stop working at this job one day. By the next day, I have another job.
Yeah.
I stopped working at that job. 2 days later, I have another job. I've always been very, very good at getting a job, but I have a hard time keeping a job because I'm so hyper and I'm so high strung. I'm a social drug addict. I'm not a full-blown drug addict where my whole life is drugs. I'm a social, Friday nights.
There's a spectrum that you're talking about. There's
exactly.
a spectrum that can happen, and you
Right.
don't cross a certain line.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a line, I feel, which takes you from social to full-blown addict. I'm right at the line. I'll go out on Friday night. I'll drink and we'll smoke some, start smoking weed and stuff. And then there's an after party, and then an after party turns into lines. Whatever the drug of choice is at the party is what you do because you're at a party, you're having fun.
Right.
So you just to do that, and then
But
you're done partying.
But as soon as you go to a certain level where you start to lose control,
I pull myself back because I know that line not to cross. So, and a lot of people say to me, "Where'd you go last night?" I said, "Oh, I had things I got to take care of." But I'll come to that line where I see myself, I feel myself starting to slip because I've dealt with this stuff my whole life.
Right.
So I know where the line's at.
right?
I'll leave.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
Right.
Go home, eat something, take a quick shower, go to bed, get up, go to work.
Right.
Work 12, 13, 14 hours, go out to the bars. See, I only party on the weekends. I'm a weekend warrior, You work hard all week and then you party hard all weekend.
I'll say you're a warrior. I've never partied anything. So college, you got focused, you liked it, you were still partying on a lower level.
Right. Because I was
much different.
Yeah.
No white powders.
No.
Lower.
Right.
And then you met your wife. Is that what you met your wife?
I graduated I got my GED. Now I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, what am I going to do now? I'm not working.
Right.
So I go back to this program. It's called JTPS. It's a retraining program. And I qualified for it. So I went to trade school. And I went to trade school for 3 years. I got my degree in appliance repair and refrigeration.
Okay.
For 2 years, I did that. And then for the next year, I got my degree in building maintenance and facility maintenance. And I got that degree.
Okay.
Now that's 95. So now got my trade school. I start working at an appliance repair store. I'm out doing service calls. I'm working for that. So life's starting to go, life's starting to make sense now. It's like, okay, I see where my life is going. It's starting to make sense. I'm starting to get direction. I'm starting to get more focused. I'm still working and I got a job bar backing again. So I'm out working in the bars, still partying, smoking weed and stuff. And one weekend I had the weekend off. So me and my buddies, one buddy, John, comes up to me and says, "Hey, Eddie, man, there's this girl I want you to meet." Okay. So that's where I met my wife. I met her in the bar. We were set up on a blind date at a bar in Florida. And from that moment on, I knew the minute I met her that she was going to be my wife. And that's where I met my wife. We dated for 2 years, and then we got married. Then we had children. So now responsibilities come into play. So I've put away all of that except for weed.
Right.
I just smoke weed.
Right.
I'm volunteering and I get a job with my buddies. When that's not a job, I'm volunteering at the fire department. I got 5 years in as a volunteer firefighter. Because see, and it seems like the story's going in different places and stuff like that. But as I said, I got ADHD, so I need a lot of stuff to keep me focused. So I'm, I'm working in the bar. And I'm volunteering as a firefighter. I'm doing odd jobs. I'm doing carpentry. I'm always constantly working.
That's fine. All this, what you're talking about, this is all just painting the picture of this phase where you're on a down level from partying, and you're getting focus, and you've got a wife, and now responsibilities are coming. I mean, you're just painting the whole picture. You're describing it fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
So we get set up on a blind date. I met my wife. We dated for 2 years. We got married. Started having kids. Now now I'm getting more focused and more focused because now I have responsibilities. I got to pay the rent. Got to pay this. Got to pay that. Got to pay that. It's the first time in my life I've ever had kind of responsibilities like that. So I'm focused. I'm with my wife, doing the right thing. We have our first daughter, Kaylin. Kaylin Allen is her name. Beautiful girl, man. God, she really, my wife and my first daughter really shook me into reality. And, you know, hey, it's time to put away childish things, man. It's time to grow up. But I still have that party animal inside of me.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm out on the weekends. We're divorced now, and we'll get into that later. But now that I look at it, I look back. You know, I'm out. You know, I have my wife. We just got married. We have a kid. I'm working. And then on the weekends, I would go out. And, of course, I'm working in bars and bartending. So I'm partying, so I'm not coming home. So I'm gone for 3 days at a time. But I'm working, and I'm partying. And finally, it took her 20 years to kick my ass to the curb. You know, she got sick and tired of my bullshit. And she split on me about 8 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'll get into that. That's later.
But the first kid came, and you said it's time to put away childish things. And you're still a party animal in you, but it did make you, it did grow you up.
Yeah, I did grow up. You know, children have a way of doing that to you. You know, so I stopped really partying. I mean, there's party animals still in me. I still want to go out and get drunk and stuff and smoke weed, but I'm more focused now, more determined because now I have a family to raise.
So how old are your children right now?
My first child, Kaylin, is going to be 19 in 4 days.
Okay.
My middle child, Mackenzie, just turned 15.
Okay.
And my youngest daughter is turning 12 the day after my first child's birthday. My first daughter is November 9th. My last daughter is November 10th.
Funny. My sister and I are 1 day apart.
Yeah, that's a trip.
Yeah. So that's a nice little grouping you got there.
Yeah.
12, 15,
4 years apart.
18.
Boom, boom, boom.
Do you talk to them?
Every day.
Okay.
Every day.
And where are they? What city?
They're back in Florida.
Okay. They're in Florida.
She left me.
We've got about a minute left, or maybe a little bit less, so I'm going to have to wrap it up. And we're going to have to press pause, actually.
Not a problem.
On this. My guest today has been over here. Good morning, Ukiah. My guest today has been Eddie Allen, and we're halfway through his story, and I really appreciate you coming on, Eddie, so thank you very much. Stay tuned for, give me the 30 seconds too, I'm going to try to wrap this up all professional tight, if I can. Stay tuned for an hour of our wonderful reader boards that tell you all the churches and functions going on in town, and with the background music of Trading Time with KZYX and Z, which is really fun if you need a wood stove or you got a fender to get rid of. That's who you call. It's the most popular radio show, and we put it on right after this one. Yeah, I think 10 seconds or something. I'm Jason. Thanks for watching, any of you all out there that watched, and we'll see you next Saturday at 10 a.m.